right, this is the pilot episode of the Patreon Challenger Patreon Challenger series, and our first guest tonight, actually today, is Emerson J. Lardy. He's one of the admins and also one of our contributors on Patreon. Hello, Emerson. How are you doing?
Hey, doing pretty good.
So, tell me about the deck you brought this today. Uh,
So the deck I brought is one that I've been playing around with for a little over a year. It's a Bant Spirits list, Spirit Tribal, um, and yeah, I think it's very strong and it's very under the radar. You pretty much never see anyone playing Spirits, and because of that, I think that it makes it difficult on your opponents, both in like their choices that they're making during the game, as well as trying to sideboard in between rounds. So I think it's a pretty strong deck in the format. I know that there's probably the worst matchups are against Tron and against Death Shadows is an okay matchup. It's kind of a toss up, but being able to like having all of the flyers, like basically every creature in your deck has flying, save for the Noble Hierarchs, which you're normally not attacking with anyways, and the Geist of Saint Drafts. So you're able to get in a lot of like those last couple points of damage that you need against Death Shadow. So I think it's a really strong deck and it's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, so this is a deck that was probably really put on the map by Caleb Durwald. I think he won an SCG Open with this deck.
Yeah, he did.
We're just looking at your variation on screen at the moment. How much does it differ from what, say, a stock Bant Spirits list?
So this is, for the most part, the same deck as that Caleb Durward took to that Open. There's quite a few changes in the sideboard here. I brought in a lot of ley lines once Shadow started becoming more popular, as discard is definitely an issue for this deck. And I started shaving on the Rest in Pieces and the Stony Silences because I don't often see a whole lot of affinity matchups or dredge. Like those really aren't things anymore that are super common in Modern. So I've made a lot of like metagame changes there. But I think the core of the deck is so strong and so consistent that I liked keeping it for the most part as is.
yeah, and I guess your deck wins through the normal way of just dealing damage with, flying creatures. But what are some of the cards that you really want to see to feel like you're doing well? Not what some of the cards that lead you to victory.
So some of them, you definitely. I think if you're doing the go wide with the spirits, you're playing Mausoleum Wanderer into Rattle Chains or Selfless Spirit into like a Spell Queller, then you really, off your Collected Company or whatever, you really want to see a Drog Skull Captain. This is the card that makes it so like if you Spell Quell or something during an opponent's turn and you untap and play Drog Skull Captain, now they have to kill this because it gives all your other spirits hexproof. They have to kill this before they can try to kill your other things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's a really strong one, and that pairs really, really well with Phantasmal Image. If you're able to Drog Skull Captain and then Phantasmal Image a Drog Skull Captain, the image's ability of when it gets targeted, you have to sacrifice it, doesn't matter because if it's a Drog Skull Captain, then both of them are giving each other hexproof. So that's a really strong combination there. And then another thing that you're really looking for, especially in like your opening hand, is turn 1 Noble Hierarch, turn 2 Geist of Saint Draft, preferably with a Steel of the Godhead. Steel of the Godhead is a crazy card with Geist of Saint Draft. It basically makes it a 4/4 lifelink unblockable hexproof that when it attacks you get a 4/4 Flying Angel. And so that combination is very strong as well.
That does look hard.
Yeah, so does the deck have there's a lot of synergies that you've spoken about. Is there much flexibility in building this deck, or are you kind of locked in with the cards that are there? I notice you've got 3 paths with one in the sideboard, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the cards that sort of have some flexibility here are Path to Exile, Phantasmal Image, and Geist of Saint Traft and Steel of the Godhead. Like the Geist and Steel of the Godhead combination is sort of like a package, and you can either play this package or you can go a different route and go heavier on the Phantasmal Image or some other spirits. The original version of this deck used to play Rock's Warmonk,
Yep.
and which was very strong when Burn was real high in the meta. Because just having a 3/4 lifelink, like, it was just such a hard thing for them to deal with. But yeah, I like the Geist and Steel the Godhead package personally. But I think that those 11 cards or so, the Paths, the Images, and the Steel of the Godhead Geist combo, is sort of where your flexibility is. I think the rest of the deck is pretty locked in.
Yep. Okay,
Alright.
so the way that this Patreon Challenges is going to function is we've invited Emerson along this week to introduce his deck. So now both Wim and myself are going to play against him with the deck that we've chosen. So do you want to take it away, Wim?
Yeah, I'll take it away, and I've sent my deck lists through Facebook so that you can bring it up on the screen, so that I can introduce it a bit. It's a very aggressive mono-red strategy with a lot of another tribe. It's goblins, another fun tribe, and well, it's fairly straightforward. Just play lots of 1-drops, bring in the damage, use lightning bolts to take care of other irritating things, and then finish it off with Atarka's commands or damage straight to the face.
Okay, great. So shall we see how this goes in the match then?
Yes, let's
let's
start
do
it up. Right. Okay, Punch Monkey, aka Emerson, made the deck, made the game.
So Emerson, what's your matchup against aggressive burn type strategies like generally?
It's okay. It's not great. I think that the deck itself is. I've got a real bad mulligan here. No lands. I think Steel of the Godhead before sideboarding is one of the most important cards in the matchup because it'll give a creature lifelink.
Yeah, that
And
definitely looks like a problem for me.
and so so that's a card that I think definitely, like, you definitely want to have in game one.
Yep.
It's super important. So I'm just fetching out an island here and playing out a Mausoleum Wanderer. Mausoleum Wanderer is also very, very strong against some of the burn decks. Like if someone wants to like Lava Axe you or something. Though I think Goblins is definitely a tougher matchup because they're trying to go wide with creatures, less so than burn you out. And so Mausoleum Wanderer is less good against that.
On the other hand, it is a 1-drop that kind of already can be shun blocked. For example, my first play was Foundry Street Denizen, and if you hadn't had a 1-drop, that would have been able to come in for quite a lot of damage over the game. But now it looks like you'll probably die to just.
Yeah, the Foundry Street Denizen was quite a popular one in the red aggressive decks around the time of Dragons of Tarkir. I think it
Yes.
actually won the Pro Tour with Joel Larson.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I started playing right around the Tarkir days, so I wasn't too up to date on what was going on with like Pro Magic. I was kitchen table playing.
I think it was a bit before, like it was early when Tarkir first came out, rather than later in the Dark era, there was another aggressive deck that was based around another card I'm playing that was a Dark As Command, which was mostly mono red and then a small splash for green for a couple of crazy
So
combo cards.
I wanted to point out this. So this is an interesting decision point here for my deck. In hand, I'm a little land heavy. I'm a little threat light. But I think that this block here is pretty good for me because if I block, the next turn either you pay for Mog War Marshal and have 2 1/1s, or you don't and you just have 1/1/1. And so blocking here would buy me a lot of time, I think, over the long game. So I think I'm gonna do that. But this is a decision point where if I didn't block, like I would be attacking for a lot of damage very quickly as well.
Yeah, so it shows to go for the conservative route here. And I think that's a good point because, to be honest, Foundry Street is kind of a big deal in my deck.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think the thing with the Denizen, regardless of its pumps, it still only has 1 power and it doesn't have trample. So there's always the option to block it. You're going to take damage, but you can block.
Yes. Keep on swinging with the Mausoleum Wanderer. I'm not going to pay for Mog War Marshal. Right, and then
Yeah, I would really like to draw a Collected Company. That that would be the best draw in my deck right now for sure.
So Eric, Wim or Eric, Wim,
Yeah.
what's your percentage of creatures to spells? Like, are you more of a burn deck or are you more of a beatdown deck?
I think I have quite a lot. Like it's 57% creatures and 25% spells.
Okay.
I think it's somewhere might be 60% creatures and 25%, 40% spells. But it's definitely more on the creature heavy side than on the burn spells.
So this is another interesting decision point. There's a lot of those in this deck, which is one of the reasons I love it. But so I have this Rattle Chains that I'm gonna play, and
Yeah, and now
I could. Rattle Chains can't give Noble Hierarch protection, which
it's not a
is
spirit.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it does pump the Mausoleum Wanderer, which I could sacrifice to counter the Searing Blaze. And I think that that's the line I'm gonna take.
Yeah, I think that's also the best line you can take here.
Yeah, because the Searing Blaze, as well as because you had the land into the battlefield, was going to do damage to yourself as well.
Yeah. It was going to be both killing the Hierarch and dealing damage to face, which can really be a problem.
I think here Emerson is am I correct in saying you kind of need a Drug Skull Captain just to make your creatures a bit stronger than all these 1/1s that are coming in?
Yeah, and I think that like Drug Skull Captain would be a good draw. But like one of the weird things about this deck is you want to be attacking. You want to be you generally want to be the aggressor, and Drog Skull Captain does not block very well. Like it would be able to block a Goblin token, but I would be wanting to play Drog Skull Captain and then attack with all my dudes.
Yep.
But yeah, it would definitely put me ahead in the race, I think. Whereas right now we're just pretty even.
And also, it does make it harder for me to actually attack you here.
One of the cards that just makes this deck very strong is Spell Queller.
But of course, I did pay with Cavern of Souls, so that
Oh no!
will counter my.
Oh, it actually does.
It will counter because it exiles. It doesn't counter.
Oh, it exiles. Ah, yes.
Mhm.
I actually got terribly burnt by that ruling at a at a PTQ I was playing. No, sorry, WMCQ with Supreme Verdict. I cast Supreme Verdict, and they, in response, spell quellered my verdict. I didn't know the rule.
no.
I found out the hard way.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is
that's one I forgot about too.
yeah. So that is actually something that I hadn't actually thought of as well. Exiles rather than counters, because you really think about it as a counter effect.
Yeah, that's
Right.
You can see that Denizen is just really pesky. It's easily
It is.
easily pumped, and it's a little 1-mana creature, but it just keeps getting in.
Yeah. If my spell hadn't actually been like exiled, it would have been a 5-power creature, but I probably wouldn't have played the dragon thing yet, because then I could have kept on pumping Foundry Street Tenants
So-
through the next turn.
Eric's board here is getting a little scary, and I could attack with Rattle Chains and Spell Queller and deal 4 damage, but attacking with Rattle Chains only, with the Noble Hierarch in play, still deals 3. And I don't think that 1 point of damage is going to matter too much as having a blocker back matters to hold off these 1/1s.
Yes.
And
And
I'll
I'm
just,
really,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm really in need to draw a top deck soon before he is able to commit too much to the board.
And just for those that are watching at home, what I'm doing from the viewer's perspective is I'm watching this match. I'm switching the hands. You can view one hand at a time, and I'm switching to whoever's on the play, so we can see what they've got to play with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or Eric's out of cards now, so I'll switch back.
And I think I'm just going to go for the aggressive route here. I am going to lose a creature, but I did just get one. And I think this is the right play, because
So you're empty-handed. I'm going to let this trigger resolve. Okay.
Oh, and that is looking bad for me.
And I'm going to go ahead and path this guy.
Paths of Denizen.
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is looking fairly damning for me.
Block the Goblin Guide.
Yeah, the
Take
spell
4.
the spell queller's 3 on defense. This just seems like it's a real problem for your deck, Eric.
Yeah, it isn't really a problem if I can properly resolve my, like, if I draw burn spells and draw into gas, but right now I haven't drawn any of my lords. I haven't drawn something like an Adarkos command, which you can use as a combat trick. And so I'm really drawing from the top of my deck, and that steal of the Godhead is really going to.
Yeah, Emerson's going to be getting 5 with lifelink each turn. So, is there any coming back for you from here?
It kind of depends, because I'm not sure.
Does
I
red
might be able to get something in, like an Adarkos command with the right way, could prevent a lifelink and deal 3 damage,
Yep.
and then perhaps. But I don't think it's likely that I'll be able to.
does your deck play a Goblin Grenade?
No, I don't play Goblin Grenade.
Yeah, it's the only red spell I'm aware of that can do 5 damage. That's actually played in some decks.
But even the Goblin Grenade wouldn't have been enough here. I think I'm pretty much dead here, just because, I
Yeah,
can't block the flying, and
Emerson's
I'm
got
dead on
lethal on board with the spell queller.
Yep, I'm just going to block one of them.
And so
And get in for lethal.
the Bounce Spirits will take the first match.
Cool. Going into sideboarding here.
So what's your sideboard plan here, Emerson?
So my sideboard plan here is, I definitely want explosive engineering. engineered explosives, whatever it's called. Uh,
Yeah.
I would be looking at Leyline of Sanctity, but he didn't seem to have too much burn. It was more creature based attacking, so I don't think that I want that. Stony Silence, not necessary. Rest in Peace doesn't do anything. Kasali Pride Mage doesn't do anything. So the other cards that I'm really looking at are Spellskite, Blessed Alliance, and the Fourth Path to Exile. And I'm going to have to ponder this over for a second. So,
Sure.
Eric, if you want to talk about your sideboard plan.
Yeah, I'm thinking of putting in Blood Moon simply because it tends to be a good way to kill 3-color decks.
I don't like to hear that.
And I'm not sure, but because against creatures there's a Tatamount Witch, which can be really handy as it allows me to pump my team and give it trample. I'm not sure whether I'll bring that in, because I'd either have to take out Goblin War Divers, which also pumps my team, Block War Marshals, which helps me go further, or Goblin Pile Driver, which is really good against when there's lots of blue things in because it can really just hit past most of the spirits.
Yeah,
yeah.
just looking at over Emerson's list, he only plays 3 basics. So, Emerson, would you be expecting Blood Moon to be coming in?
Yes. Generally against like mono red decks, or near mono red decks, like things like Storm and stuff like that. Definitely expect the Blood Moon. Really hope to don't see it, and fetch basics as much as possible, especially blue and white. Noble Hierarchs and Collected Companies are the only green cards in the deck, and while casting them is important, being able to cast the core of your deck is more important. I went for a pretty safe sideboard plan here. I went for +2 Engineered Explosives, -2 Phantasmal Image.
Yep.
Yeah, I went a bit shorter on 1-drops. I've got 2 Goblin cohorts in the deck, and I feel like they're going to be hard to use since you've got fairly good blockers. Then deciding in more Blood Moons. I haven't really changed too much else, so I think it's good this way.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Let's see how this plays out after sideboard. So, Eric's on the play here.
Yeah.
We're just
That
looking at your
might be
deck
a
at the
big deal.
moment.
I'm going to keep this.
As we just look at this now is Emerson's hand.
Yeah, I'm really on the fence about this one. I mean, I have one of my sideboard cards, and I have a pretty quick start here, but I'm very soft to Blood Moon. I think that even though I know you're bringing in Blood Moon, normally I wouldn't necessarily know that. And so I'm going to keep this hand under the guise of, if we weren't talking through all of our choices here, this is a hand that I think I would keep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another Mausoleum Wanderer.
Did you give any consideration, like, obviously you've seen it like a mono red deck, so Blood Moon's a reasonable expectation. Did you give any consideration to the Kasali Pride Mage?
Not really. That's a card that I generally don't like to bring in until I already know that it has a target.
Yep.
It's just not it. I find that in the deck it doesn't really do anything, unless you're using it to kill artifacts and enchantments. Like these extra Exalted trigger is pretty nice, and I guess it blocks 1/1s. Maybe I should have considered it, but I generally wasn't there.
Sure. Can you just go over your thought process there, because you had a number of options and you chose the Hierarch. Are you expecting a top deck?
I mean, if I do draw a Geist or like a Spell Queller, I would be wanting to play it.
Yep.
On the play, I 100% lead on Mausoleum Wanderer because it's the more aggressive of the two. But here, looking at my hand here, I have a Collected Company, which I want to be able to cast on turn 3. and then I can double Wanderer next turn. So
Sure.
I actually think I made a mistake here because I wasn't really thinking too much about it and just played Cavern of Souls. But normally I should have gone for another red spell to play Searing Blaze here. But
So
oh yeah,
is that you just want to get the hierarch off ASAP?
yeah, like normally when I think about it now, just like and because my play of Cavern of Souls was kind of impulsive, I should have played Searing Blaze here and killed Honored Hierarch, but I kind of forgot, so I'm just going to go for one of the other spells here.
ooh.
It's less good probably. It does commit to the board a bit more, but I prefer playing this creature a bit later.
And this is an aggressive start. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm already down to 13 on what is this turn 2 here. So looking at another Mausoleum Wanderer on top of my library.
Yeah, this is kind of the start I want to have with this deck. I might have made a slight misplay, not taking out the honor noble hierarch because it does give quite a lot of ramp and tempo. But we'll see here.
So I'm debating if I want to attack here. I think generally I don't. Like, I don't hate getting in a point of damage, but I do have 3 Mausoleum Wanderers I can play, so
Yep.
I'm not going to. So I'm gonna play Cavern on Spirit. And I'm going to Mausoleum Wanderer. And I'm just gonna play out 2 here because having the third one be able to pump the other 2 is pretty strong.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that does look. And I think I'm going to go for a bump of the team here with a Goblin Chieftain, but I am going to fetch for a Stomping Ground because it's for better mana that way. And I think right now I am definitely the aggressor, so I can take 2 life points simply.
I agree. Yikes! This is a big problem here.
Yeah, and now the interesting thing is whether I should swing with the Goblin Chieftain. I think I will, because even if he blocks, that's kind of good for me, as it is a 2-for-1 and Mausoleum Wanderer is a good attacker. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to swing with the team here and get in for 7.
Oh.
He doesn't block.
So, Goblin Guide revealed a Drug Skull Captain off the top, which is very interesting and makes me kind of not want to double block the Chieftain. I was originally planning on double blocking the Chieftain, but because I am so far behind. But man, all right. So let's think this through. If I take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I go to 6. I'm going to untap, play Wanderer and Captain, and get in for 6 and put you to 11 and have 3 blockers back. That's close. I think the safe play. I think the safe play is going for the double block here, and trying to survive longer.
I am also somewhat glad to see the Mausoleum Wanderers go because they do tend to stick in my way when trying to play my non-creature spells.
So this may be a little telegraphed, but I'm going to play a Temple Garden untapped and pass the turn.
So for Eric, do you always, when you see the situation, it's just collected company? Is that what we always think?
Well, I'm also thinking of Spell Queller here.
Yep.
Because that might also be. And I think I'm going to present Lethal here.
Oof.
I just go into the aggressive side and see what he should do.
So I think I'm going to Collected Company in response here, hoping that I hit a Spell Queller to get rid of the Bushwhacker. And I do indeed.
Nope,
Two spell.
Spellcrawlers.
I have to target Bushwhacker with both of them.
Yeah.
Okay, and the second one will fizzle.
And now I'll play Searing Blaze.
Mm-hmm.
L2. Oh wait, yeah.
Oh, and the way Kicker works, I believe you can. Oh, but you're going to be tapping out for Searing Blaze. I was going to say, I think you can kick it again once it comes off the Spell Queller.
I am actually, but I think I'm going to do this way.
Oh, puts dangerously low now. 3.
Oh, I took the wrong one, but it doesn't really matter. I think the card I have in my hand, and we'll see this turn what happens.
That's an interesting draw.
He's got Steel the Godhead now. I'm kind of scared. Like that would really be because I don't have enough time to.
I do not have Steel of the Godhead, but I have a pretty interesting play here. So I think what I'm going to do is attack here with the Spell Queller. Let damage resolve. Cast Engineered Explosives for 1.
Oh yeah.
Crack it and clear the creatures.
Yep.
And play a Mausoleum Wanderer to try to hold back a blocker in case of a hasty attacker.
Yeah, and I'm just going to finish off the game with.
Ah!
Okay, so
Well, I tried.
So that's the reason why I chose to go just for Searing Blades, because that I did get a land and I needed that 3 damage to make sure that Attacker's Command would have been lethal when I casted it. I was just hoping that you wouldn't get Steel of the Godhead or a Spell Queller to be able to bring it back.
Yeah.
I also saw 2 Spell Quellers off the Collected Company, so I thought the chances were fairly low for that.
Sure. So
Yeah, I agree.
are either of you going to be making changes during sideboarding for Game 3?
I'm thinking about it, but I don't think I really have. Like, because right now I am on the draw rather than the play, and that does change my situation quite a lot.
Yeah, now that I've thought about it, I do like the Kasali Pride Mages, especially on the play. They're a little awkward when you have Cavern of Souls in your deck that you want to put on Spirit, but I think on the play, the extra Exalted trigger is a little more important. And one of the things I often do here is I'll shave a Geist of Saint draft,
Yep.
as it is a little clunky and slower, and probably a selfless Spirit, as there's not a whole lot of there's no mass removal going on my opponent's side.
I don't think I'm going to make any changes, simply because I wouldn't really know what would be best here. I'm just going to go with the same lists mostly.
All right,
Okay,
game
let's
3.
Jump back in. So Emerson's on the play.
I have a very good hand.
I have a very interesting hand as well. I'm going to keep.
Untapped Breeding Pool, Noble Hierarch.
Right, now I've got an interesting decision. And I think because I'm on the draw, I'm not going to take the aggressive point, and I'm just going to Lightning Bolt Hierarch immediately.
That is unfortunate.
Because otherwise he'd get to head too much for me to be able to recuperate quite easily.
So I think my line here, for the players at home that can see my hand, is just plains pass.
And I think I know what to expect there.
What do you expect?
Well, I expect the Rattle Chains here, which isn't really a problem for me.
Yep. Just switch to.
And I think I'm going to go for a Goblin Pile Driver here.
And that resolves.
So this has protection from blue. And
Yeah, so Rattle Chains won't be able to block it, and it can really be very nasty if unblocked, because it can really get strong quite quickly. Also, that's another reason why the bolting of Noble Hierarch might have been a good play, because
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the few creatures that's actually blue in the spirit. No, that's actually not blue in the spirit deck.
So here, since Rattle Chains can't block anyways, go ahead and get in.
Right. Doing damage, of course.
And I'm going to untap Hallowed Fountain and pass the turn.
so plays a shock land untapped, takes 2 life. Is that a giveaway, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, this definitely represents Spell Queller. So, the interesting thing here is now I missed a land drop, which is kind of big. And we'll go with display.
So the Goblin Pile Driver gets a +2 every time a Goblin enters the battlefield.
It gets +2 power when our Goblin attacks.
When it
Foundry
attacks.
Street ends in this one.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So I'm thinking here about the Founder Street Denizen. I do have a Spell Queller in hand.
Yeah.
And I could Spell Queller this, but I also have another card that I could play at end of turn.
And this is a really this is a decision where you really have to think about, like, is it necessary to counter the Foundry Street Denizen? Do I have something else? There's lots of factors that you need to think of. And this is where hidden information
And
is
I think-
really important.
I think that now that I've seen Lightning Bolt, I don't want to Spell Queller counter this and then you just Lightning Bolt my Spell Queller and put it into play anyways. So I'm just going to let this happen, since it's not pumping the Pile Driver this turn anyways.
And,
Okay, and because I know there's a Spell Queller, I'm not going to play my Goblin Guide. I was actually trying to tempt Spell Queller with the Foundry Street Denizen, but that somewhat didn't work. And I'm not going to just play a creature into a Spell Queller.
Alright, and so one of the reasons I love Rattle Chains in this deck is it lets you play basically your entire deck at instant speed.
Yeah, and that's somewhat irritating.
And I drew a Trog Skull Captain, so I think I'm just going all in on the trying to beat your face in plan.
Yeah.
This is 10 damage coming on turn 4 here. Ooh, just taking it all, alright.
Yeah, I don't want to block Geist's Saint Draft here. I'm hoping to draw a land, and I didn't, which is really problematic for me.
Yeah, with lethal on board is here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I was hoping to cast a Searing Blaze and a Goblin Guide here, but what I drew was a Searing Blaze, so that's not going to happen today.
Oh, and Searing Blaze requires you to play a land as well.
Like, if I want to deal 3 damage to you, it requires me to play a land.
And it's only 1 damage to target player as it stands. So it won't even remove the Jog Skull Captain.
Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So it's really, like, this is pretty much game for me, I think. I'm going to go for a Mogwai Marshal. Mogwai Marshal, and it will allow me to block guys who say draft. It's not unblockable.
I think there's still lethal though from the Rattle Change, the
Mhm.
Drug Skull, and the Angel. It's
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
It is. I forgot about the angel, but I really don't have a choice here. Like, preferably, I would have, but I might have needed to block Geist of Saint Trap. Oh, and yeah, I actually made a misplay. No, Goblin did Goblin Bile Driver attack? I think
yeah.
so, yeah.
So yeah,
But I
he could have
probably
blocked
should have
freely.
kept him back because it was. But I didn't think of Geist Saint Trap.
Oh, it could block ice and not die, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh man,
I think that missing that lane drop was crucial.
yeah. I missed a land drop twice in a row, and that really put me behind a lot.
I'm just gonna go for the maximum rub-ins.
Yeah.
So now everything has hexproof anyway.
hmm Yeah, with 2 Drogskull captains, it makes it so hard on your opponents. I mean, there's like nothing they can do to get rid of your stuff.
Okay, so the Bounce Spirits takes the match down 2-1.
I think it's very important in that matchup who goes first. Because
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think you went first game as well.
hmm
Sure. Like, and that really feels like you're the aggressor when I only know how to be the aggressor and I can't block any of your flying creatures. You've got a spell queller on the time I can try playing my burn spells. You've got cards that can counter my non-creature spells. And it really becomes a lot harder to try to put the pressure on or remove your threats. And when I was on the play, you found out that it was also really hard to get back from that point.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, without a skill of the Godhead, those aggressive matchups feel real bad when you're on the draw. That's definitely tough. But I think that I often win with this deck, but I've also very often go 2-1. Like I'll lose the game that I'm on the draw or whatever. So
Yeah, I think in total your game might still be positive against very aggressive decks because even when you're on the draw, you still have one card that can kind of get you out there, and that's Steel of the Godhead.
yeah,
Like if you manage to draw them, you won't draw them that many times in that situation, but you can still edge out a game or two with that draw. And I don't think that a lot of aggressive decks have a way to stop you from actually winning when you're on the play. Because all those flying creatures are really hard to take down. You've got lots of stuff to be able to protect your creatures, to be able to make sure they don't just aren't able to burn you down completely. You have quite a lot of control elements in your deck, and that really allows you to keep the pressure going without any problems.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, and I agree. Like Spell Queller as a card and Mausoleum Wanderer as a card are both so strong because they advance your board state while still letting you have control over what your opponent's doing.
Yeah,
And
that makes it very hard to win out of nowhere.
Yeah, definitely.
But those are interesting games. All right then. Matthew, do you want to show your deck off right now? Or?
I'm gonna bring it up on screen now. I'm gonna play Jeskai Nahiri. So I'm just trying to find it. Jeskai control. Sorry.
Hey, Matt, my laptop's dying pretty quick over here. That game pretty much ate up most of my battery.
Okay, you want to stop now?
Yeah, I don't think I have much of a choice.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of static when you charge your computer, but
yeah, and I'm not sure why that is, but I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, maybe we can finish this later then, and I'll work out how to, cut this part off the end of the video and